We've heard from Joe Lacob. We've heard from Steve Kerr. We've heard from Steph Curry. We've even heard from Draymond Green as well. And now we hear from Brandin Podziemski sounding off on the Jonathan Kuminga free agency saga. You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and we'll talk about what Pods had to say in just a moment. And then later on today's show, we're going to give you a little Warriors free agency update outside the Jonathan Kuminga realm. What's going to happen after the Warriors get the Kuminga stuff resolved? We'll talk about that in just a moment. There's a couple of still free agents out there still that Golden State has their eyes on. But first, go down in the comments for me and get creative. I want to see the comment section flooded with a bunch of different fun creative words here. Describe the Jonathan Kuminga free agency saga, the whole debacle, with just one word. Can you encapsulate it in one word? Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Brandin Podziemski sounded off. He spoke to 97.5, The Game about Jonathan Kuminga's free agency. And this is a player who, along with Kuminga, was viewed as somebody who's going to be a big pillar of this Warriors team for the foreseeable future. They held Kuminga out of trade talks, and they definitely held Brandin Podziemski out of trade talks as well. And this is what he had to say on the whole Kuminga saga. Obviously, everyone on our team knows it's the media's job to try to nitpick and find things to write about and talk about and separate themselves so they have a story to write. Like, we all know that's how it works, especially the guys who have been here around it for 10 to 15 years. They know how it works. Everybody in the locker room knows no matter how the situation's resolved, it doesn't change our viewpoint of JK as a person and as a player. Obviously, we all want him to be in Golden State. That's the whole point. But it doesn't change anything. Am I buying that? Am I buying that? I don't know. I do buy the we won't see JK differently as a person or a player, regardless of how the situation plays out and when it does end up getting resolved. But like obviously we all want him to be in Golden State. Like that's like throwing like obviously I like chocolate chip cookies. Like they're just like throwing like ridiculous stuff out there. Like we hadn't heard that comment from Steph Curry. We didn't hear that comment from Draymond. We didn't hear that comment from Jimmy Butler. Or I mean, I guess we did way back when, but as of late, recently we didn't hear that from him. Steve Kerr, we didn't hear that from him. Mike Dunleavy, we heard that from him, but even he sounded a little bit reluctant when he made that statement as well. And now Pods is saying, obviously, we all want him to be in Golden State. That's the whole point. I don't want to read too much into this. I'm not surprised by Brandin Podziemski's comments here, to be quite honest with you, because he's Kuminga's boy. Like, they are, kind of at least grouped together in a sense by at least some Warriors fans. It's the young players that Joe Lacob has invested in here into the future for whatever Warriors picture is painted after Steph Curry and Jimmy and Draymond are all out of the equation. So I'm not surprised by Pods kind of having his boys back here in a sense, as they're being relied upon as the next era of Warriors basketball players. I guess maybe not so much Kuminga now, but Pods definitely still in that boat. He said this as well. The media is going to portray it one way to try to make people think differently of it, but it doesn't change my perspective. I know all I can control is being the best version of Brandin Podziemski that I can be going into my third year, and everything else is going to fall how it may. Look, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a Warriors media member or like I'm at the practices, I'm asking questions in the pressers or anything like that, but I just call it like I see it with the Kuminga stuff, and I'm not saying that Brandin Podziemski's watched these videos or anything like that. BP, if you are, shout out to you, brother. Good stuff this season. But I call it like I see it with the Kuminga stuff. The way that he and his agent have acted throughout this whole scenario, and then I also will call it like I see at the other end too, with how Joe Lacob has handled this whole situation, dating back to all the way a year ago when Kuminga was in trade talks regarding Paul George, regarding Lauri Markkanen last summer. Like, it's been the same thing, and it's been pretty black and white for the most part. Kuminga wants to be an all-star. He knows that's not going to be in Golden State. He doesn't feel wanted in Golden State, yet Joe Lacob does not want to trade Jonathan Kuminga and get a role player back when Steve Kerr is asking Jonathan Kuminga to be a role player. So that's basically where we're at this point. Kuminga thinks he's valued higher than what the Warriors value him as, except the Warriors don't want to lose him for nothing. And that's really what the situation is at this point. Look, let's shift gears to Pods a little bit here because we talk about Kuminga way too much on this show. Brandin Podziemski better be the best version of himself this upcoming year. I didn't miss that little statement in his quote. He knows he can control being the best version of Brandin Podziemski. He better be, because Golden State did not make a marquee free agent. Actually, they haven't made any free agent additions this offseason just yet, but they haven't made any marquee additions outside of the Butler trade back in February, and they need a guy like Podziemski to be at least close to the all-star level that Joe Lacob has called him over the past year or so. And in the past 2 seasons in his career so far, he has taken a leap of sorts. He definitely got the three-point volume up a little bit more this past season. The stats that you see on screen are not all that different, but you could see that Podziemski was a more comfortable player this year, especially after the Butler trade went down, when he was starting all those games and when he came back from, it was the abdomen injury, I think it was. It was an abdomen injury that he suffered against either his Brooklyn or New York in that 2-game stretch. And when he came back from that injury, he was absolutely awesome. So don't take all these numbers that you see on the right side of your screen as fact, because he was pretty brutal to start the season, and then when the calendar flipped to 2025, he was really, really good. But then he kind of took a little bit of a step back when the lights were the brightest, and he was in the postseason. And look, these numbers look eerily similar to the ones you just saw on the right side of your screen. I promise I didn't just copy and paste them, because the efficiencies went way down. 36% from the floor, 33% from three-point range. Like, it was not good for Podziemski. He couldn't really create much for himself. And when Seth went down in the playoffs, the Warriors needed a guy like Pods to be able to step up. You had Jimmy Butler. You had Kuminga coming out of the DNPs that he was getting at that point. So you were getting decent enough scoring from those two guys. But Pods is somebody that needs to be relied upon as a true floor spacer here, and he could not knock down a jumper to save his life. Look, Joe Lacob called this guy an all-star. He said, we feel like we have a future all-star on our hands, so we're not trading him for anything. Well, the Warriors are going to need an all-star level leap. And look, am I saying he's going to make that 15-man roster in the Western Conference? Probably not. It's just way too talented out there. But can you give me 17 tonight? Can you give me 5 boards, 5 assists, and then play the defense that we know you can play, taking charges, diving for loose balls, getting the 50-50 plays? Like, that's what Brandin Podziemski is going to do and to make money in this league, and then hit the outside shot. That needs to come along a little bit more for me to feel confident here in Golden State heading into this season. What do you guys think? As far as the starting lineup goes, should Brandin Podziemski be a part of it? He definitely was down the stretch of this past season, but with the way that the Kuminga stuff's rolling right now, they might force him into the starting lineup. What do you guys think? Should Pod start and keep starting? Yes or no? Let me know down in the comments. Next, we're going to get some Warriors free agency updates about some guys who have yet to sign with the team, but in all likelihood are going to sign with the team. Got my fingers crossed on some of these names. But first, get hooked up with this awesome deal at this link right here, chatsports.com/dubcity. It's a City Edition long sleeve from Nike. It's really fresh, and it's on a fat sale. Only $35. The weather's cooling up a little bit. We're getting to September. We're getting the fall. The leaves are starting to fall from the trees. Get hooked up with a fresh long sleeve right here. It's heavyweight as well, so you can wear it in the winter too. Chatsports.com/dubcity. I put that link in the comment section and description of today's video to make it easy for you guys. Go get yourself some fresh Warriors City Edition gear today, because it's not going to be in the store forever. Alrighty. Verbal agreements that Golden State has had so far this offseason, and everybody around the league, like, I'm kind of done saying verbal agreements. They are agreed upon. They are coming to the Golden State Warriors. That's how every front office member, that's how every media member is operating under the impression that Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, and Gary Payton II will be members of your Golden State Warriors this upcoming season. Horford getting more than the vet min there at the taxpayer mid-level exception. But we have an update on what that whole contract could look like coming up at the end of today's show. Now, I want to talk about a couple free agents that are out there right now, because Golden State could, in theory, sign a couple of these guys that are not named, DeAnthony Melton or Gary Payton. They could end up saying, we don't want those guys anymore, and there's better names out there, like a Malik Beasley, who is obviously under investigation for the gambling and the point shaving and stuff like that from last season. The charges have been dropped. They have not found anything. They apparently just concluded that Malik Beasley was playing like ass in some scenarios there. So he's cleared of all wrongdoing, I guess. But look, you can't argue with 40% from the three-point line last year on 16 points per game, like really high volume for him. You could argue he's the second best offensive player on that Pistons team that made the playoffs. And I'm not saying that the Golden State's going to go out there and sign him. I think they have like a couple teams like New York, Cleveland, and obviously Detroit that are in the running and that have made the most contact with Malik Beasley to this point. But he's also looking for something above the vet minimum, and I'm not so sure that Golden State has the room to make that signing happen if they get this Kuminga stuff done as well. A player who I think that could get a vet minimum deal for Golden State is Malcolm Brogdon here. Look, Brogdon is in theory a really good player, but that theory doesn't always come to fruition because he's had a ton of injuries throughout his career. But when he's healthy, man, you're getting like a solid 13, 5, and 5 off the bench, and it's grown really good efficiencies as well. This is a guy who's been a 50, 40, 90 guy before in his career, and I would like Malcolm Brogdon having that veteran presence, a very calm player, doesn't turn the ball over, plays solid enough defense as well, and he could be on the Golden State Warriors radar here, as Jake Fisher said this. He said that in Brogdon's case, Golden State's long-running stalemate with restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga has contributed to the uncomfortable wait. We won't know if the Warriors emerge with more serious interest in Brogdon until the state of their roster and luxury tax bill becomes clear in the wake of a resolution into Kuminga's fate and the subsequent signings that have been long anticipated to bring Al Horford, D'Anthony Melton, Gary Payton II, and second-round pick Will Richard into the Bay Area fold. Now, let's talk about Brogdon for a little bit. Does Golden State really need another ball handler? Like, when you go down the list here, I'm thinking about Steph, obviously. Draymond handles the ball. Jimmy handles the ball. Brandin Podziemski handles the ball. When D'Anthony Melton gets to town, he's going to handle the ball a little bit. So, like, there's only so many names out there that there's only one basketball out there on the court. There's only 48 minutes to play. So how much opportunity will Malcolm Brogdon even get if he's in Golden State? We'll see if all these free agent signings that have been long rumored this whole offseason do end up coming to fruition. If they do, then it's probably not super likely that Golden State pursues Malcolm Brogdon at a really high rate, and kind of vice versa as well. Brogdon probably wouldn't want to come to Golden State. There's not much opportunity. And like, I'm a little bit skeptical. Like I said, like, he's got an extensive injury history. Like, it's not just one area of his body either. He's had a back thing, he's had a knee thing, he's had an elbow thing. Like, it's been a lot of injuries for Malcolm Brogdon here, and you can see that reflected in the number of games that he plays year by year. Only 24 last year with Washington, only 39 the year before with Portland. Obviously, that's 67 with Boston there. That was a sixth man of the year season. Then you go like 1 year prior with Indiana, and he only played 36 games. So, like, can we even expect this guy to play half the season in Golden State if he ended up signing? I think it's a little bit too risky for my pockets, because you already have Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, all 35 and up, and other guys who have injury history on your roster as well. So just bringing another guy in there that creates more uncertainty, I would probably be out on that. What do you guys think? Should the Warriors sign Malcolm Brogdon in free agency? Type it down in the comments for me. S for sign, P for pass. I'm trying to hear what you guys have to say down below. And another name that's out there on the free agency circuit, and I think is a little bit more likely than Malcolm Brogdon at this point, is Seth Curry, the new Splash Brother / old Splash Brother / first Splash Brother of Steph Curry. Well, yeah, that's probably the case. And they have yet to play together in their NBA careers to this point, so this could be a name for the back end of Golden State's bench for morale. And who knows, if you need a couple of shots hit, he'll go out there and hit them from long range. Not going to provide much for you on the defensive end. He's been really a liability throughout his entire career on that side of the floor, and that's probably why he's still a free agent at this point. Not going to give you much, but he is going to give you morale, and he's going to be a good spot in the locker room too. Now, one more thing before we get out of here. Brett Siegel did say this in his most recent article. All of the Golden State remaining signings that are expected to be vet minimum contracts, except for Al Horford, who's expected to sign a 2-year deal with a player option. So it's probably going to be something along the lines of 2 years, $11 million with a player option for that second year. And we don't really know right now if Al Horford is going to be or has a plan to play past this upcoming season. All signs point to him definitely playing this upcoming season, and my fingers are crossed on that, because if he doesn't, the Warriors are in big, big trouble. But past the season doesn't really matter. They're going to leave it up to him, and he's a champion. He's a long tenured NBA veteran, so he probably deserves a little bit of control over his future starting in next season. That will do it for today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel for the best and most consistent Warriors content on YouTube all offseason long. We'll see you guys in the next one, and as always, let's go Dubs.